it does ask a lot of questions about grief and loss and how it means to move on from those tragedies, those things that happen in your life, those close ones that we love so much that are just one day suddenly gone, and how do we respond? I've waited an eternity for this sequel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Isaac Joel, and today we're going to be breaking down Tim Burton's latest film, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, starring Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Monica Bellucci, William Dafoe, Jenna Ortega, Justin Theroux. This cast is literally massive. You cannot come back and do another Beetlejuice movie without stepping up your game, without bringing in some of the original cast and some new members to really emphasize how different everything has come along in filmmaking and storytelling from the original Beetlejuice. If you're like me, you're a massive fan of Beetlejuice. I loved the film as a child. I'm not someone that just rediscovered it, that just watched it during the pandemic. No, I literally watched this film as a child by myself. I kind of just discovered it on my own because naturally I was a big fan of Michael Keaton. He was Batman. I'm a massive fan of Tim Burton, his films, and going through his filmography and learning a little bit about his career, you start to realize and get a bigger picture of what kind of artist he is. Now, in my opinion, he is one of the greatest directors still alive and still working today, that holds on to his creative vision, that never compromises for the studio. He'll walk away at any given moment if he doesn't believe in the project. That's why he didn't go on to do Batman 3 or whatever they ended up doing with Batman Forever. And Tim Burton's creative vision is completely unique to himself. Nothing in his world, in his movies, at least for the most part, are like, when it comes to the architecture, nothing is straight, nothing is singular, nothing is like normal. Everything has a curve, everything has an edge, everything has something that makes it stand out from the rest. Now, going back to the original Beetlejuice, I loved this film as a child. The original Beetlejuice wasn't a movie that scared me as a child. I always found it to be an interesting take on the afterlife. You don't really see a lot of filmmakers come in and give their impression on like, oh, well, this is what I think heaven and hell would look like, or purgatory, or the waiting room. This is my opinion. This is my stand on that. This is the first and only really take when somebody has done something like this, and Tim Burton being a gothic director, somebody who loves these dark themes and Edgar Allan Poe style. His work really is beautiful, and I think a masterpiece, and something that not a lot of people give recognition to. I want to give so much recognition to Tim Burton coming back and doing this film. I think I, like many people, was a little bit skeptical, like, okay, can he still do it? Because he was doing the Wednesday TV series, and that's TV, that's Netflix, and I liked what they did with that, but I had my concerns with Beetlejuice. I did not want Jenna Ortega to come into this film and essentially just be Wednesday, or be like the character of her mother, Winona Ryder, from the original film. They're kind of very similar in that they're dry, their humor is very just kind of like low-key, and they see the world very differently than other people. That's a relatable take, I think, on a lot of individuals today, but I didn't want Jenna Ortega to just do another Wednesday impression or just come in and be her usual dry self. I think Jenna Ortega is a phenomenal actress and a perfect addition to Beetlejuice. Her collaboration with Tim Burton has really evolved over the years. I think now with the season 2 of Wednesday, she might be like an executive producer on there. I know she like changed a lot of the script and the dialogue and the motivations from season 1, and that kind of threw off the editors. When they're in the room, they're like, wait, none of this makes sense, and they're like, oh yeah, she kind of like changed a lot on set. And so that was a little strange for some people to look at it and be like, oh, well, she's just an actress, she should just come in and read the lines. But I think that shows how intelligent she is as an actress, as a young female actress coming into this industry, voicing her opinion. I think that's very important when it comes to having the integrity of these characters. How would they react? How would they respond? What would their choices be today in a modern time? Out of everything in this film, Michael Keaton was the least of my concerns, of my worries. I knew that he was going to come in and really just do the best job that he could with Beetlejuice. I was really disappointed when Batgirl got canceled. We all know that Michael Keaton was going to make his return in that film. I know we recently saw him in Flash, but I think what they were doing with Batgirl, with those directors and that kind of world, it was kind of more centered into the Tim Burton aesthetic. And we never got to see that. We never got to live in that. And I am very confident that whatever Michael Keaton was doing with Batman on that film would have been very impressive. Michael Keaton is just a great actor. I had no idea that he started his career in comedy, and he is really hilarious. Not a lot of people give him credit for being such a comedic actor. I would argue and say he is 10 times more funny in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice than the original film. That's obviously with just time and better script and better filmmaking. Tim Burton gets a lot of credit for the writing, I think, as Beetlejuice. The words and the dialogue is coming from him directly. So it's not Michael Keaton just walking on stage and being like, hey, I want to do this, hey, I want to do that. Like, everything is already set up. They have all the jokes built up, and that's what's really funny about this movie, is that it does a lot of layups, is what I guess you can call it. A lot of set work and building up the foundation from the beginning and the second act, so that all of these jokes that play out through the film really land. Now, another concern for me was I didn't want to see the same jokes. I didn't want to hear a lot of the same humor and repeats of some of the original film. A lot of these movies that kind of return to the franchise today are just building on nostalgia. Like, okay, well, let's just do the same joke. Let's just have them wear the same outfit. Let's just have them do the same thing, drive the same car. Like, oh my God, it's been 20, 30 years. You don't think that the character would evolve in any shape or form? That's what I appreciate about this movie, is that it does take that bold risk at putting these characters at the center, the front stage of the movie. Like, okay, they are famous. Everybody knows them in this world. They're not just strangers who had this experience at a young age. You know, it's not like Halloween, you know, where Jamie Lee Curtis's character is kind of really torn up, or Sarah Connor and she's like a recluse and hiding and training her entire life because someday the war is gonna come back. No, this movie makes the attempt of moving on from their grief. They've lost their father, they've lost their grandfather recently, and they are grieving. They are mourning this tragedy. They all feel kind of cheated by life and how unfair everything is. Winona Ryder's character is this kind of medium. She's able to conjure, communicate with the afterlife, but only a select few. She can't really see her husband. She can't see certain individuals. And that kind of is a question mark on itself. This movie has a lot of subplots. It's one of the biggest issues, but it's also one of the biggest things that I loved about this movie, because it's been so long since we've been living in this world and seen these characters. You know, by this time we should have already had a third Beetlejuice movie. I think this movie should have came out a long time ago. It's been a movie in the making for a very long time. I'm glad that it's finally here, but there's so many subplots being shoved into this story, because it's like, well, we're making up for lost time. We're probably not going to be able to do this again. I don't know if they even want to come back and do this again. This was probably just a one-off thing. I'm gonna go out of a limb here and be very selfish and say that I need Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Like, give me the trilogy make it the three words all in one. I want to see that on a poster. Like, it's a no-brainer at this point. This movie really needs to become that epic trilogy. Now, this movie doesn't end on any cliffhangers or anything for you to really believe that they're going to come back and like, oh, there's going to be another one that's setting up another. Like, no, it really is a contained story, which I love and respect it for that. But again, there's just so many subplots being shoved into this script that it's kind of very distracting. But also, I had such a good time. The cast is so good. William Dafoe is great. Danny DeVito, Monica Bellucci, everyone who has a small role, a very insignificant role, honestly. It's like cameos. But I loved every minute that they had on screen. It wasn't really a character arc, or I didn't really feel satisfied by the end of it, because there was a lot of questions I had by the end of this movie. There is so much going on that I can't really sit here and tell you like, oh, it's about this. Like, no, it's about this, and then this person's after this one, and then this person's after that, and then this one teams up with this, and then they divide, and then there's just so much going on for a movie that's like under 2 hours. I wouldn't mind if this movie was like way longer. But like I said, I would really love to see a third movie to this, because Michael Keaton just really dominates the role as Beetlejuice. He is so much more funnier. The jokes are way better. I was cracking up in the theater. I was literally laughing so hard. I jumped out of my seat at one point. Literally jumped out of my seat and started clapping. I'm so glad that I saw an early access screening, because everybody that was in that theater were die-hard fans. They were dressed up, they were wearing costumes, and I love that about audiences, when they're really engaged with the movie, that they're not just kind of casually walking in here and they don't really know what to expect. Like, no, expectations were high on Beetlejuice, and I was really holding this movie to a certain standard, to Tim Burton, to Michael Keaton, because they are great actors and directors in their careers today. And so I just had so many expectations for this. I wanted to see a lot, and this movie really gave me a lot. The soundtrack, I want to point out the soundtrack. I love the music in this movie. If you love the music in the original, which only has like 1 or 2 famous songs, they really couldn't afford that much music back then. But now the budget is just like billions and millions of dollars, whatever. And so they really have unlimited access to whatever they need. So the music really matches the vibes of this film. Not only does the music match the vibes, but also the cinematography, the colors, the editing. I really, really want to emphasize the editing on Beetlejuice. It's a project that you would have so much fun looking at the footage and going, okay, well, what can we do to this? I can imagine that they were working on it and walking away and saying, you know what? It would be more funny if we go in and dub this, if we make this black and white, if we do this, if we add a song track here. I don't know how well thought out this movie was. It doesn't seem like it really was completely thought out, and I mean that in a compliment, because when you have so much good material to work with and you're in the editing room, you're like, okay, what the hell can we do with this? This is just a crazy, bonkers, bizarre, disturbing film. Really, really disturbing. There were at least 2 sequences in this movie, in the middle and at the very end, that caught me completely off guard. My mouth like dropped to the floor. I was completely speechless. I had no idea what I was processing and thinking. I was like, wait a second. I'm confused. Is this movie PG or PG-13? I really need to go back and check again, because everything they were showing was so horrifying that I was like making sure there was no children in the room. And there was even a message in the beginning of the movie where the actors were like, just so you know, there are disturbing images, so if you cannot handle that, maybe walk away. And I was like, okay, how disturbing can this really be? It can't possibly be all that bad. Oh my God, when it happened, I was so shocked. I wanted to throw up, literally throw up. I can't even describe it. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I really think you should go and check it out for yourself. There's just so many memorable moments in this film, specifically with Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, they have all the best laughs. There is one F-bomb that is like clear as day, and then the second one is bleeped out, and they're both hysterical in the way that they use them, in the context surrounding it. Again, Michael Keaton just does this thing as Beetlejuice where he just pops up out of nowhere. He's wearing these crazy costumes. You turn your head and all of a sudden he's somewhere else. You turn your head and all of a sudden he's over there. You really have no idea what to expect. He is literally the god of mischief. I guess he's the demon of bioexorcists, but also he's just this uncontrollable chaos that can really just jump the walls and go anywhere at any moment. And this is what reminds me of why we loved Jim Carrey so much as The Mask. I really miss that kind of zany style of comedy where a character transforms into something just so freaking out of this world. You don't even know if it's genius or the most insane thing of your life, but you know people around Halloween time are going to love it. I don't know what I'm gonna dress up as this year, but I'm telling you right now, Beetlejuice is on the top of my list. He has so many hilarious costumes, and I'm not even talking about the classic black and white striped suit. There's a point in the film where he's wearing a cardigan and glasses. He's dressed up like a therapist. He's wearing like a wedding suit. He just has so many different styles going on, and I love that. I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to marry Beetlejuice. I really think, in my opinion, he's not that bad of a guy. He isn't even the villain. He's not the villain in this movie. You know, they kind of just reach out to him because they need his help. They made a deal with him, and you know, they kind of need to honor that deal. But Beetlejuice himself as a person, I think he just wants to be loved. He really is just looking for someone that's his soulmate. And I've heard Winona Ryder say in interviews that she has pitched the idea to Tim Burton that, like, I really think that they should end up together. They should get married. And I 100% agree with that after seeing this movie. This takes an interesting direction. I understand that, like, as a character, she doesn't want to be with him. Obviously, you don't want to be married with a demon. But I think just for the sake of the comedy and the characters and kind of where they're both at in life, oh, they're perfect for each other. I'm not even saying that as like a fan theory. They literally belong together, and I don't understand why they didn't just end up marrying each other at the end of this movie. It would have been a perfect ending, and I would have been satisfied with that. I think it would have been very awesome to have seen the merging of the afterlife and wherever we are today on Earth. Bringing those two worlds together, and it kind of seems like they were playing around with that concept a little bit. Again, that's another subplot in this where some of the characters from the afterlife kind of walk out the door and come onto Earth's playing field, and people can see them, people can interact with them. The rules are a little bit confusing to me. I know I haven't even mentioned Catherine O'Hara. If you have seen Schitt's Creek, she's a series regular on that show. She's really hilarious in that series. I really recommend that you go and check it out. It's really funny. But if you do know her from her other films, obviously she's Kevin's mother from Home Alone, and she was the mother in the original Beetlejuice. She's just such a great actress, and I think she comes into this film wanting to really stepping up her game. She's like, all right, I gotta match the level of zaniness everyone else is on. And I think if Michael Keaton is at a 10, she's literally at a 9.5, because all of her jokes are so damn funny. What they do to her character throughout the film, again, it kind of feels a little bit like a subplot, but her personality, just having her there, everyone's personality in the film really is so palpable and engaging. You really are entertained. The ending to this film really threw me off. I can't say it's like this big epic final act. It's not that at all. Everything is kind of like rushed and concluded by the end of the movie, and so it doesn't really satisfy me personally. But I had a good time, nevertheless, watching all these characters and interacting with this world of Beetlejuice. Tim Burton is a phenomenal director. Michael Keaton brings one of the best performances in his career, I think, as Beetlejuice. This will go down as one of the most iconic roles he has ever played. And I think I'm so grateful, honestly, that he came back and returned to this. I am begging you guys, please do another movie, because I just want more and more of this world that he has created, this afterlife. There's so many unanswered questions that I think are still lingering, and I would love to explore them further. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is absolutely hilarious. It does suffer from some pacing issues. There are a lot of subplots going on, a lot of characters added into this film. For better or worse, I'm going to rate this movie 7 out of 10. That doesn't mean that it's a bad rating. That doesn't mean that I didn't love it, that there's a lot of problems. That's, to me, a passing grade. Anything above a 7 is really entertaining and such a good time at the movies to watch. And so I think if you are very curious about what happens after the events of the first movie and where these characters kind of go into the next chapter of their lives, I think it poses a lot of interesting and fascinating questions about what happens to us when we leave this world. And it does ask a lot of questions about grief and loss and how it means to move on from those tragedies, those things that happen in your life, those close ones that we love so much that are just one day suddenly gone. And how do we respond and how do we react to that? You know, do we kind of just want to be depressed and shut out the world forever, or do we want to try and celebrate them? Do we want to find answers? Do we want to hold on to them for the rest of our lives? And so I really love messages like that, and I think this movie was so entertaining. I highly recommend that you go check it out this weekend. I had a chance to purchase the Beetlejuice Beetlejuice popcorn bucket at Harkins Theaters, and I absolutely love it. I only like buying popcorn buckets when I actually go to the movie and when I see it. I don't like buying them when I miss the film or I have to go on eBay. I missed the Alien Romulus bucket. I was really bummed out about that. I missed the Batman bucket. Everybody was showing that off. So for me, this is what I have right now, and I love that I have to include this into my collection. It's perfect. I wish it was kind of a tin style. It is kind of plasticky, but nevertheless, it's really cool. It has like a gravestone inside. There's the green grass, and then the headstone is right there. It says, "Here lies Beetlejuice." I'm a huge fan of this franchise, of these movies. I think Tim Burton is one of the best filmmakers still alive today, and Michael Keaton really, really proves that he is this iconic role of Beetlejuice. I think that they can easily go on and make so many more of these movies. I'm very curious what it is you think about Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, my name is Isaac Joel. I'll catch you next time.